Prior to the open session, council met for a closed meeting. It was moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Borneman, pursuant to Section 239(2) and 3 of the Municipal Act SO 2001 C25 as amended. Council of the Corporation, the Town of Parry Sound, moves to a meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to A, the security of property of the municipality or local board, a boundary matter; B, personnel matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, internal staff issue; and C, a proposed or pending acquisition of land for municipal or local board purposes, 2 potential property purchases. And that was carried. Okay. Is there any additions or prioritization of the agenda? Seeing none. Mover and seconder for the agenda, Councillor Borneman and Councillor Marshall. The council agenda for June 19th, 2018 be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Councillor Saunier?
Yes, item 913, George and Bearways. I had a business transaction with them.
Good, thank you. May I have a mover and seconder for the minutes, please? Councillor Horn and Councillor McCann. The minutes of the regular council meeting held June 5th and the special meeting held June 11th be approved as circulated. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Any questions of staff? Councillor Borneman.
Mr. Brown is back, so we need to ask him a couple questions. Mr. Brown, I understand that you've been doing some training of your public works crew with respect to needles and sharps that are being discovered in the municipality. Is that correct?
Through your worship, that's correct. We actually invited the health unit staff to provide training to the public works staff. They did that today. Virtually all the public works staff, including myself, were trained on how to handle sharps. It was a real eye-opener for everybody around that in that room. It was also an extreme eye-opener for the amount of sharps that are issued from the health unit on an annual basis, as well as 3 other locations in Parry Sound. So there were substantial questions from staff. We didn't get into the philosophical side of why sharps are being issued and that, but it was more of how to deal with them. Because every day, virtually every day, our staff either see them or hear about them, whether they're on the ground, whether they're actually running through the wastewater plant, through some of the pumps in our pumping stations. So I want to make sure, and the town wants to make sure, that the staff are well protected. And we've been given information and details, and we're coming up with a plan to outfit each of our public works vehicles, including mine, with a kit, with the right gloves, with all the paraphernalia that's required to handle these kind of things, so our operations staff are safe.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Borneman.
On a different vein, we've had some correspondence from folks on Avery Court with respect to the parkette in the middle of the cul-de-sac. And I've had some comments that they're not particularly enthralled with all that's been done there. I realize that we've put some, we've smoothed things out, spread some topsoil and planted some seed. And I think it boils down to regular watering in the parkette and whether or not that's feasible. I see a hose that's there. I don't know if that's ours or whether it's ever been activated, whether that's feasible or possible or not, Mr. Brown.
Through your worship, if it were up to me, I would remove the whole thing. And we've done that twice since I've been here. One on Georgian Bay Avenue and the other one in Kristen Heights. These cul-de-sacs with the little parkette in the middle are basically a nuisance to the operations of how to maintain the road. They're designed, they're put in for some reason, I'm not sure why, but I prefer to see them gone. I'm not going to be very popular saying that, but that's how we feel about it in Public Works. Having said that, there was a water tap that was, I believe, installed in that location that could be activated, but then they're receiving free water to water a little garden in the middle of the road. Doesn't make sense to me. We're not in the business of maintaining these little parkettes other than to put grass, topsoil, sod, that kind of thing. Because every winter we basically rip it up because it's in our way, because we're using it for snow storage. Or if the road is narrow, so when we go around with our plow, we have a tendency to damage it. We're back there every spring, we clean it up as best we can. I'm not sure what the answer is for that particular one other than my original suggestion, but it wouldn't be well received.
Councillor Borneman, follow up on.
I guess
your
if
questioning.
it's our park, do we maintain it to the same level as other parks within the community? I guess that's what it boils down to.
Through your worship, if I want to, we need first to clarify whether it's a park, and I don't consider it a park. I consider it a place to store snow and to be in our way. So it's not identified as a park as far as the Parks Department goes. So the Parks Department doesn't maintain it, and we certainly don't spend any large amount of time maintaining it. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. Probably not, but I'm not sure how to answer that question other than it is not identified as a park.
Any more? No? Good. Councillor Keith?
Yes, I have 3 questions for Mr. Brown. The first question actually has to do with your last comment. It's not in Avery Court, it's not identified as a park. So what I would like to know is, do we have a definition in our bylaw as to what specifically is a park, and therefore we know that is not a park? Like, do we have a specific definition? What is a park?
Mr. Menz is going to try to answer that.
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, we do. In the Parks Management Plan that we have, there is clear definitions, and each of the parks are identified actually. And my recollection is that cul-de-sacs aren't identified as parks or parkettes. They, as Mr. Brown noted, they are not there at this point. If that was a route that council wished to take, then we'd have to look at that, and develop some kind of a plan, a policy. There's, as Mr. Brown noted, resources aren't allocated for cul-de-sacs, which, because they're simply not in the Parks Management Plan.
Okay. You had a couple more? Yep.
Yes, I have 2 other questions, just to be clear on. I see there's been a lot of line painting going on. I'm wondering what the status is of that now, please.
Through your worship, the line painting is contracted out to a provincial line painter who comes around annually, does most of the municipalities. And they've held their price for the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, so we're getting a very good deal on it. This might be the last year because I'm told that there's been a change in ownership. But the major line painting is done externally by a contractor, and all our stop blocks, our pedestrian crossings, our accessible parking spots, our regular parking spots, are all done internally by Public Works staff. And they've been actually working at night this week to complete it. So if you drove downtown today, you would have seen actually half the stop blocks done. The other half is going to be completed tonight or tomorrow night. So we're almost done.
Thank you. My second question, and it doesn't have to do with line painting, but I've received a couple of calls just very recently, and I know it is summertime, regarding motorized wheelchairs driving down, for example, Bow Street, and I'm wondering if you have received any concerns along that way, because certainly people are driving the vehicle, and that I'm sure the wheelchair is not going to win.
Through your worship, I have not received any phone calls directly with regards to wheelchairs on Bow Street. But I will say that I mentioned this at an earlier council meeting, is that there will be some changes to the minimum maintenance standards for sidewalks, and that's coming up this year. So we will be looking more significantly at the quality and the maintenance of our sidewalks to ensure that they're safe for pedestrians and for wheelchair accessibility.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Correspondence, Ms. Box? Oops.
The first piece of correspondence is from Richard and Marilyn Mooter, 16 Rosetta Street. They have concerns regarding the flushing of wastewater pipes on Rosetta in 2017 as part of the annual maintenance and how it affected their home. This was circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to the Director of Public Works for follow-up. The second item is from Elaine Pelbour from 7 Redwood Drive. She is seeking payment for damage done when a tree on town property fell on her home. Staff have provided a response that was directed to Council, and that's included in the package. And it was all circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to the Director of Finance for follow-up. And the last, four items are all the AMO watch files from May 17th, May 24th, May 31st, June 7th, and it's all municipal industry news. And it was circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to the clerk for the agenda. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Super, thank you. So we now come to the deputations and presentations portions of tonight's meeting. I'd like to remind deputations here tonight that they have a maximum of 10 minutes each, including questions of clarification from council. Deputations are subject to the same rules of conduct as members of council, and that no one shall speak disrespectfully or use offensive words or insulting expressions against any member of council, staff, or another member of the public. And when you're at the microphone, be about 1 foot to 1.5 feet away, or we get feedback. So, so our first deputation tonight is John Mayer and Terrell Faulkner, Parry Sound Area Active Transportation. Welcome. Okay.
There we go. Okay. Okay, mic check. How's this?
Sounds good.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
okay, thanks. We're proposing that Bow Street be revised and given what's referred to as a road diet, so that it has a center turn lane running the full length of the street and bike lanes. This speaks to your concern about wheelchairs on Bow Street. This would deal with some of that. And active transportation, as you probably know, we're just a group who's interested in promoting human-powered transportation, a more extensive human-powered transportation in town, and making it safe to do so. So we want that integrated more and expanded throughout the town, and this is just one of the aspects. Okay, could we have that? All right, basically, people live on the streets, they travel on the streets, and we'd like to make it safe and efficient and healthy for them to do so. Okay. What is a road diet? It's a Safe Streets project, and the space is reorganized to accommodate other modes of transportation, i.e. human-powered. Bow Street is 4 lanes for motorized traffic, and it would become 1 lane motorized each way, 1 center turning lane, and safe cycle lanes on each side of the street. It's been embraced by nearby communities. If you go into Aurelia, their Coldwater Road, now very heavy traffic. It went from 4 lanes down to a road diet. Midland, the William Street, has been converted largely, and certainly down at the bottom. And in Barry and in most municipalities that I go to now, it's becoming standard. Okay. This proposal is essentially, it not only aligns with, but it's just pushing forward an agenda that's already been set out by the town of Parry Sound in its strategic plan with trails, its trails master plan, and it's consistent with the cycle-friendly environments recommendation of PSAAT and the 8 to 80 workshop. 8 to 80 meaning everybody, we want to see everybody from 8 to 80 using the streets safely, walking, running, and cycling. Okay, that's the strategic plan, and I think we've got a graphic coming up here. Do we? Yes. Okay. Now I do have a laser pointer here, and if you look at the screen, you can see the Bow Street running down here, and that's what we're proposing, that Bow Street from the river up to the 400 being given the road diet treatment to smooth traffic, make it less confusing and safer for bikes. Also, before we switch that, I just wanted to point out that there is no way of getting downtown, from downtown up to the shopping centers in either direction with a good bike route. So this will allow people more of a flow. And when the motorized wheelchairs, which I think mostly come from Forest Street, yeah, okay, so they'd have much better access to the shopping up further. Okay, yeah. All right, we're not showing. Okay. What? Yeah, they could. Okay. So we're not putting the graphic up, or we're not putting this up. Can we put that up? It's not.
It's
Oh, it's not.
it's on behind you
Oh, I'm sorry.
on the other one, but it's not changing on that one.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, back to what's it saying here? Technology is great when it works.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Okay.
know.
All right. Probably have to reboot the whole system. Anyway, okay, since we have a limited amount of time, if you can work on that, I'll just wing it. We had a number of really impressive drone pictures of the traffic. There we are, okay, and do you have a rubber mallet for the projector? Yeah, okay.
If you want to just continue with.
Yeah, okay. Basically, this just looks at several points on the street, and there are a number of problems with Bow Street the way it is. It goes into 2 lanes under the trestle. It expands back to 4 lanes, and it tends to be, I find, at least confusing when you're coming down Bow Street, certainly at Forest, and whether you're going to turn left or whether people ahead of you are going to turn left or continue all the way through. So because your lane, the right lane, disappears. So to have consistency in the traffic flow and to be able to make it easier for people to cross the roads in coming out of the side streets like the medical center now. They have to cross 4 lanes of traffic. I saw one actually yesterday who had to cross over 2 lanes coming downhill from the medical center, cross over into the curb lane to make a right into the hospital. It was ugly. So single lanes with a Forest single lane each way with center turn lane would make things just cleaner. In terms of capacity, going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes effectively, I think that is not a problem because if it were, traffic would be backed up going under the trestle, and I've never seen that. So I think the road diet simply makes it cleaner. It allows for cyclists and also the wheelchairs. Okay, so can anyone see this? Is this visible? Okay, all right. Can you go back to the first video? And okay, so there's Forest Street, and this doesn't show up. And I guess I lose my mic. But anyway, it's a question when you're coming southbound, or I guess that's westbound, downhill, whether you're going to be caught behind someone turning left. And also the visibility, I have to say, when you're on Forest Street turning up, turning right, the visibility is not great if you're in a regular sedan, particularly in the winter, trying to see like that truck with a red canoe on it. Okay, next, and we'll get up here. This is the medical center, and people have to cross. Now, it can be confusing having to cross 2 lanes of traffic to get into the flow that you want to get into. And next one, okay, that's the chicane. And the compression where it goes down to 1 lane, and I think it demonstrates in itself that flow wouldn't be a problem with 1 lane all the way going up each way. And here we have what I would describe as a bit of a mess. Lots of street to play with, but I think there are 6 or 7 entrances from Tim Hortons to Richards, and then into Canadian Tire and Sobeys. And it would be a lot simpler, especially if you're turning in and out of Tim Hortons, a huge amount of traffic there, if you only had 1 lane of flowing traffic to cross. Anyway, same with Pioneer. But effectively, I think I'm using up all my time with the technical issues and everything, but effectively road diets are very popular now. They're popular for a reason, and it gives you space and flow, and also accommodates the increasing number of bikes, which we hope people are going to be using. So that's it. We asked Council to consider a road diet approach to improving Bow Street as an essential corridor of the Parry Sound bicycle loop as proposed in the Trails Master Plan, which, okay.
Good.
Questions?
Any questions? Councillor McCann.
Yes, thank you very much. Excuse me. In the plan, is there, have you planned for a bike lane on each side of the road?
Yeah, that would be integrated all the way, in both directions. So that would be integrated into the plan for sure.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Marshall.
Thank you for your presentation. Have you done any type of research or anything into what reducing Bow Street, which I'll agree can be a mess. I live off Bow Street. But reducing it down to 2 lanes, is it going to back traffic up? Because we see in the summertime when you come off onto Bow Street that sometimes, especially on a Friday night, it's backed right up to 400.
Yeah.
So reducing it down to 2, is that going to make it worse, or is that going to be neutral?
That's certainly a very valid question, and certainly one of my concerns. But when I look at what happens under the trestle, I haven't seen a backup on either side of the trestle. I haven't. And I think part of the reason that traffic gets backed up is the confusion that you have when people start turning left from one of those, into any of those many driveways and roads. There's chaos, there's lane changing, so I think that's a bit of an impediment. In terms of what's going to happen in terms of maximum, I don't have the traffic flows and it would take a traffic engineer to give you a really good answer. But when I look at what they did in Orillia on Coldwater Road, I mean, that's a major road downtown in Orillia. And I've never, now I may not have gone in at peak times, but I just haven't seen a traffic problem, which you would actually expect on that road. So,
Any further questions? No, not at this time. Okay, thank you. I appreciate the deputation.
okay, thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
going to take off.
Our second deputation had withdrawn their deputation. At this time, we do have a few minutes left, and if there's anyone else that wishes to make a deputation, they'd be, they can come forward and state their name and address and present what they need to say.
I'd like to make a deputation.
Then you come forward to the microphone and state. No, we have a protocol, so. Just hang on 1 second. Just press the purple button on the front there. Very good.
How's that?
Okay, very good.
I'm a longtime resident of Parry Sound. I spent 71 years of my life on the waterfront in Parry Sound, and probably have more knowledge of the waterfront than anyone. In 1990, I had a grant of $1 million from our Conservative government, which was thrown out the window because Mr. Bob Ray knocked them off. Can you imagine if $1 million had been spent in 1990? It would not be population 5,500. It would be considerably more. At this point, I have a group of business people, concerned business people, about the growth and some of the goings on in Parry Sound. And they're all prepared for this upcoming election, which you'll hear more about pretty soon. We have a group of 10 to 12 now. Some are professionals. All are business people, and they're there to work for the town of Parry Sound to make it great again, like it was in the 90s, like Midland and Penetang and all municipalities around us are. So I would like to call on the resignation of this mayor and council, and have an independent audit done of some of the costs. The reason why is that some people that I know very well have worked on the school, for one thing, with housing over the past year, and there seems to be some improprieties.
Mr. Holmes, are you making
that our mayor,
Mr.
that our mayor's place of business, his real job, is supplying materials to that particular location. Now, I stand to be corrected, but I think an audit should be done, and done immediately. And if you
Mr.
want
Holmes,
to
are
move
you
the
making-
election up, let's get at it.
Mr. Holmes, are you making accusations that there's impropriety with council?
Pardon?
You're making accusations
Yes,
that
I
there's
am.
impropriety with
I
council?
am telling you that I believe and have definite proof that there's improprieties of at least the mayor, for sure, who is a clerk at the particular building that supplied all the materials, and the sale of materials, and the ordering of materials.
Well, I'm going to cut your deputation off because you're making accusations about council. If you have legal proof that that is so, otherwise you will be talking to my lawyer.
I
I-
relish that. I relish that to talk to your lawyer, believe me, and
We're
an
ending the
accounting of
conversation.
all the accounts